Hey, there he is.
Hey, what's going on, Troy?
How's it going, Derek?
Hey, man, everything is good. Watching a little Monday Night Football. That's about
Right,
it.
right. Awesome. Well, hey, welcome. If you're out there listening to us tonight to Raise the Bar, this is the Sky High and Flight Jump Camps podcast. I'm your host, Troy Haines, and I'm joined tonight by Derek Knight, a teammate of mine. I can't say former because we're just teammates.
That's right.
We were formerly on the track team together at UCLA. And here we are years later, still coaching and bumping into each other like every other day, it seems like. Last couple weekends.
Yeah, just about every day now.
Yeah, two meets, the first two all comers meets of this season, and then the Sunday workout, the
And
rare
then Sunday workouts. Yes,
followed by the Sunday workout. So
absolutely.
awesome. And so, Derek, all these years bumping into you, I think the first time I bumped into you coaching was down at, I was thinking back on it at Mission Viejo, the
Yes.
Orange County
Hmm.
Championships, right? That was the first time I'd seen you in a long time. So,
Right.
fill us in. I haven't given anybody information about you. You were a hurdler, and but what did you do in high school? What got you to UCLA? All that good kind of stuff.
Okay, sounds good. Well, yeah, I started running track 1982. Didn't know
Hmm.
much about the sport. Went to Sarah High School in Gardena.
Okay.
Started off, really didn't know much about the sport. So we had a track and field meeting, and I'm looking at the distances. I don't know what's what. Uh, I think I circled the 800 because it was in the middle.
Right.
I really didn't know what I
Right.
wanted to do. So I circled the 800.
Nice.
And I think my freshman year, I ran the 1632.
Okay.
I was a distance runner when I started.
Mm,
Sophomore year, focus a little bit more on the half. Probably ran 206, which was decent.
right. Right.
Was decent
Absolutely.
for cross off.
Absolutely.
And then coming into my junior year, I ran cross country for the first time this season. Felt like I was in the best shape of my life. I opened up my season with a 158,
Nice.
97 or something like that,
All right.
and came in seventh place. So that's when I stopped running the 800. I saw some guys over there look like they were struggling doing hurdles. I said, I want to do that. I started hurdling, and the rest is pretty much history. I actually walked onto the team at UCLA. I was an early admit coming out of Sarah to UCLA. Did find out that UCLA was interested and was recruiting me,
Right.
but I was already in school, so the recruiting didn't go that far.
Right.
So um, fast forward 1985, I walk onto the team at UCLA. It's highly competitive. In 85, that was the year Henry Thomas came in,
Yep.
Danny Everett, and Mike Marsh. We all came in at the same time. And, we had some very formidable teams at UCLA while we were there. I don't think we lost a dual meet while I was there.
Mm-hmm.
We won Pac-10 championships every year I was there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we won three NC2A championships out
Mm-hmm.
of the 5 years that I was at UCLA. So,
Yeah.
um,
Glory days of UCLA
yeah,
track.
yeah, those were the glory days. And I'm hoping that UCLA track and field at some point could get back to those days.
Right. Yeah. Well,
Yeah, absolutely.
that would be nice. It's going to be interesting now with the, moving to the Big Ten and, going against definitely some different competition. I don't know what the college landscape is like anymore. I've been out of there for a long time as of you, and I don't
Yes.
know. I know that they still do dual meets, like we go against SC every year,
Right.
but I don't remember a killer dual meet schedule. And then Pac-12s is just where everybody gets together. And we usually don't see everybody inside the Pac-12s. Like I remember we would go, I remember my senior year, which I think was your freshman year, because the guys you're
Mhm.
mentioning were all freshmen. You, Henry Thomas, Mike Marsh. So
Mhm.
85 was my that fall was 85, but that would have been 86 in the spring,
Yes,
right?
it'd have been 86
Yeah.
in the spring. Yes.
So 86, that was my senior year. And we went against what? Stanford. We went against Cal. Cal came down in the rain.
Al came down. I remember
Well,
that.
I tell that story a lot of times because of we were all excited because they were filming the meet. Remember, they were
Right.
putting on
Yeah.
the meet from Prime Ticket.
Prime ticket. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, so we
Yes.
saw the cameras up there, we're all excited. And then when we sat down to watch it, your old two meets, your two events back in high school, you'd have loved those because they showed every lap of the 1600,
Every
the
lap of the
3200,
16.
the
Yes.
10,000. They showed every lap. They didn't show any field events. So, I'm sitting there watching and what myself, Mike Powell, and Brian Mergenthal swept the high jump in the rain. So
Nice.
one jump didn't show anything, no graphics on who won. We're just like, this is,
Just the results.
yeah, I don't even remember that. I was just like, whatever, dude. They didn't show us, we were just like, okay, this is kind of silly. So, and then I think they repeated that a couple weeks later. We went against SC at the Coliseum. So
Yeah.
from that, same kind of thing, every lap. It's funny too, because the guys that are calling the 10,000, they're trying to think of stuff to talk about. So they're asking each other, like, how's your kids doing at school?
Yeah, that's
Like, did you
that's a
guys
lot of
cut?
conversation that's gonna go on during
Yeah.
10,000.
Can you guys cut to another event or something? Like, we need a guy in the truck that's like going, okay, leave camera 6, go camera 3, let's go see some shot put, so my long held belief is that the coverage of track and field is just a travesty. They really don't know what they've got. And literally a three-ring circus of things going on. And
Absolutely.
they can't get any of it on in TV in a fashion that anybody wants to watch.
No, field events often get lost in televised coverage.
Mm-hmm.
You may get a little bit of long jump. Actually, I saw a little high jump as of
Mm-hmm.
recent, just a little,
Yep.
a tiny bit of pole vault,
Yeah. Yeah.
but not a lot. Just a clip here, clip there.
Yeah.
It's all about the 100.
Right.
And always has been about the
Yeah.
100, 200, everything that's going fast. They're going to
Relays.
show all of that for
Relays
sure.
at the end for sure. 4x1 more so than the 4x4, but
Mm-hmm.
the glamour events for sure. So you got going in the hurdles right at the end of your high school.
Right, yeah, right at the end, yeah, right at the end of my high school career, like my junior, senior year, and I actually surprisingly ran well. I've been coaching kids, and I remember how fast I ran, and I would be competitive now
Yeah.
with no coach.
Right.
I, I didn't have a coach. I taught myself how to hurdle, but I was with a very competitive group of young men at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and that's pretty much what kept me honest. So hurdled my last 2 years of high school, made the team at UCLA, hurdled there 5 years, Pac-10 runner-up my sophomore year. I think I took third in both hurdles
Mm-hmm.
a couple years. And then after I graduated, took a year off, started working, and everybody was going to the Olympics, and everybody was running track professionally and running for Santa Monica Track Club. So I got me an agent and started training, and I ran track successfully for about 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
First 2 years, I ran 400 hurdles, and then the last eight, I ran 110 hurdles.
Right.
Qualified for 4 Olympic trials, never made an Olympic team. Highly competitive in the U.S., as you and I both know. If I would have competed for any other country other than the U.S., I'd have made 4 Olympic teams.
Right. Right. Yeah. It's really tough over here. I tell people that, it's always amazing to me the level, levels, like you say, going up. And,
Mhm.
you know, um, if you tell a kid today your times, I tell them, I said, what did you jump? I said, I jumped, 7.3 or something. Like 7.3. I'm just like, I go, dude, 7.3 is like the red-haired stepchild height. It's like it got me to see it got me to NC2As my senior year. That was it.
Mm-hmm.
I made it one time, and
Mm-hmm.
7.3 didn't even sniff the trials back then. Now you can, the B standard is 220, which is 7.2 and a half. So
Mm-hmm.
you can go, but you're not going to make the team with 220 anyway. You
Yeah,
might just get it
exactly.
this little,
Right.
here's your ribbon, for coming to the trials.
Yes, yes,
But
yes.
so, I went through all that. Dwayne Washington was my roommate my freshman year, and I used to, Dwayne and I would sit up at night talking about all our dreams. And, I
Mm-hmm.
grew up watching, Bruce Jenner win the decathlon in 76.
Right.
Like, man, I want to win the gold medal and be on a Wheaties box, and we were talking about all that stuff. And it was like, I went for it, I lifted, I
Yeah.
trained, I did all that stuff, and I took my shots. I didn't stop trying until I was till 92 when I was 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like,
Okay.
you know what? I'm not going to take drugs. I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to keep trying. And then I,
Right.
got myself, Doug Nordquist coach, Alan Hankel worked with me
Yep.
on last year.
Mm-hmm.
Just couldn't put it together, and I was like, well, the one thing I can say on my lifetime that I'm proud of is that I went for it. I didn't, I don't have to sit there and wonder what would have happened if.
What yeah. You don't
What if
have to
what
think
if I
about
had gone
that.
for it? I went for it. I didn't get a real job till I was after 28. And but I always part of the stuff that we talk about here, Derek, on Raise the Bars,
Mm-hmm.
I just love seeing high level, you know, quote unquote professional, level competition. And when we're talking about track and field,
Mm-hmm.
these athletes in the world doing amazing things, that dream of going to the Olympics. I mean, I live it vicariously every 4 years. I
Yeah.
lived it through teammates, like yourself going to trials, and
As did I.
Kevin
As did I.
Young, Kevin Young, breaking the world record and winning the gold, and Mike Powell, being the world champion and an
Yep.
Olympic, a record holder now, world record holder. And when you realize that athletes like yourself that were able to make it and then couldn't make the team, and then guys that made the team but couldn't medal, and I saw I forget the gentleman's name, and you got to forgive me, but I was watching the feed one day, and his name may come to me. I'm starting to get old, so my brain doesn't remember stuff. But
You and I both.
this guy was a triple jumper, and they showed him, and he's from Great Britain, and he ended up being a gold medalist. But his first time,
Jonathan something.
Yeah, I want to say that too. Edwards, Jonathan Edwards, might be.
Jonathan, yeah, I
Something
think
like that.
so.
I can't remember.
Jonathan
Yeah,
words,
but
maybe. I think that's the guy.
first time he finished dead last, I think, or real close to the bottom, like 37th place in the
Mm-hmm.
Olympic triple jump final. And then
Mm-hmm.
4 years later he came in 21st. And then 4 years later he came in 12th, and then the last time he won the gold medal.
He
And you're
won the
like
gold
going,
medal.
oh
Yeah.
my gosh, what a great, testament to all the things that, we talk about, like this dedication, hard work, just sticking out, getting
And
better at your
consistency.
craft.
And consistency.
Right.
Consistency is the key.
Yeah, absolutely. So that whole thing, just from, to me, the goal itself is noble. Just putting that before yourself and saying, I follow these jumpers on Instagram and see their heights and everything. And after a couple of years of college and everything, I jumped, 2.5, 3, and I'm like, this is an Olympic year. You going for it? You want to coach? I'm like volunteering.
Right, right, right,
I've
right.
been watching your stuff. I think you could use a good coach, and there's I don't think so, and this and that. And I'm like, oh man, you're talented, you've got this, you got that, but it's not for everybody, and like you and I know, you were fortunate enough. I didn't do any of that. You were smart enough to get on Santa Monica Track Club and start making some money, so that pays more bills, as you're going through. I was working at a golf course, and I was waiting tables, and bartending, and still trying to train, so
Mhm.
it's hard over here for the amateur athletes.
It is extremely difficult.
They don't
Uh,
really give you any roadmaps,
yeah. I mean, and the amount of care that you need to put into your body.
Right.
Um, you know, I'm looking at the amount of money that LeBron spends now on
Right.
his body maintenance. It would be really nice if we would have had those type of resources because
Right.
injuries is a big setback. And,
Yeah.
unfortunately, track is performance driven,
Yeah.
so if you don't perform well, the
Yeah.
chances of you getting another opportunity become
Yeah.
slim to none.
Yeah.
So it was a hard road. And then you had mentioned Kevin. Kevin ran me out of the four. The year that he broke the world record was the year I stopped running 400 hurdles.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to go out and train to be second best. I
Yeah.
watched him do that. I did the math. I was like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to do this. And, it was better for me too. 110
Yeah.
hurdles was a lot easier to navigate professionally than 400 hurdles.
Hmm.
400 hurdles in a different continent every 3-4 days, and you're packing your bag for the entire summer and you're dragging it along. After 3 meets, I'm
Yeah.
already dead tired. I have jet
Yeah.
lag. I'm tired of hauling my bags.
Right.
And these guys were like really kicking my head in, and I couldn't understand how they were running so fast and not getting tired, and I'm just exhausted.
Yeah. Yeah.
We'll have that conversation another time.
Right. Right.
you know, um, but yeah, it's been a pleasure seeing you on Sundays. I coach privately as well as you do,
Yes, you do.
and
Rather successfully, as you were telling me.
I mean, well, give or take. Um, and that's gonna be how I get my way back
Hmm.
uh, over to Europe, maybe in the Olympics.
Right.
Um, I need to find athlete that's highly motivated that has citizenship outside of the U.S. And
Right.
the
Yeah.
chances of us making an Olympic team are highly likely.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. It's
In the U.S., it's gonna be highly competitive. It's a totally different animal, totally
yeah.
different game.
Well, it's interesting you brought this up, Derek, and I just want to tell again our listeners out there, and if you're tuning in, we're listening to Derek Knight here on Raise the Bar. Um, wh- the whole thing about getting hurt, like, and now I can tell these stories because at the time we weren't supposed to do that. So when we were at UCLA, we weren't supposed to do any intramural sports. I'm here to tell you that there were a lot of guys that played intramural sports at UCLA that
Intramural.
were.
I think you were playing intramural basketball, sir.
Yes, little
I,
basketball, little football.
yes,
Went out
yes.
there and did that, and playing basketball. Darned if I didn't step on some big galoot's foot and roll my ankle. My takeoff foot, and
Mm-hmm,
I'm cursing, and I'm sweating because I'm thinking the coach is going to yell, and I'm hopping on my other leg all the way into the training room where I
mm-hmm.
shoved my foot into the ice whirlpool. And I stuck it in there for 20 minutes. I was used to that by then, and I got it out, and they taped me up really well, and they had me doing exercises right away. I remember
Mm-hmm,
doing the toe raises and
mm-hmm.
walking up on my toes and all that stuff. And the guy goes, "Yeah," he goes, "You need to walk around all night on this." And I was like, "Okay," and I did. I walked around up and down the hills of Westwood. And, darn, 2 days later, I remember on Monday, I was back to lifting and, doing cleans and everything. And
Nice.
my ankle hurt a little bit, but it was like, okay, and when my last year in 92, I was training at Cal State Long Beach with Alan, and I
Mm-hmm,
did a run through. I went under the bar, stepped in the pit, snagged a spike just by the tiniest little bit,
mm-hmm.
and took a step and rolled my foot again. And this time I high sided my ankle like way worse than that time. And I was
Oh,
like, I knew when I hit, I was like, oh my gosh. And again, now I'm not at UCLA. I don't have
yes.
a training room.
So you
I
don't have the
have
training
nothing.
room. You
I'm at
don't have.
home. I
Yeah.
got bags of ice in my thing because I was taking ice baths, so I could do the ice. But I was coaching then at Orange Coast College, and the next
Mm-hmm,
day was the state meet, and we're flying up north.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Dude, I don't know if you've ever done this. I got in the airplane. I iced my ankle pretty good, best I could the night before. I wrapped some, a bandage around it, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
walking on it. Okay, I'm all right. We get on the plane, and when the plane gets up to altitude, my ankle just swole up like
I'm
like
sure it
three
did.
times its normal size. And I'm like, I could feel the skin stretch. I'm like, oh my God, what's going on? And I mean, I'm like, does anybody have any aspirin? Like it
Right.
started killing me. I was like, oh my gosh. And I get there, I don't have crutches, I don't have anything. And we're at the meet.
Oh,
Friday
wow.
night was a qualifier. We flew up and we just went.
Uh-huh.
So I was like, oh my gosh. So I'm walking around, looking at the track, getting ready to go. It was 2-day final. I'm like, I'm hobbling around this ankle. Is like, man, I didn't recover from that. That was pretty much the end of 92. And
Mm-hmm.
at 28, my career, because we were coming up on, I hadn't even made the trial height yet. It wasn't a
Mm-hmm.
good year, but I was running out of meets, and all of a sudden I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't even run. So
Yeah.
anyway,
Hey,
that training thing that you're talking about, that's huge.
that's
You know,
once you leave campus, it's a totally different ball game. You don't have the
Mhm.
same resources. Like the high school kids that I'm training now, they have a plethora of resources
Yeah,
because now I have a massage therapist that I can call and
yeah,
he can work on kids at a reasonable rate. I even know a physician that does PRP for kids that need to get back on the track immediately.
right.
Cryo, there's so many more resources now
Right.
available that we really didn't have when we were going around.
Yeah. Well, I remember, I mean, this is simple stuff that everybody laugh at now, but I remember right after I left, I still had Steve Lang and John Smith's phone number. And
Mm-hmm,
I asked John, I did something to a hamstring, and I
mm-hmm,
called him up and I said, who do you know? And I'm down in Orange County now. And he said, oh, you got to go see Dr. Vicky, down on Brookhurst.
mm-hmm.
I'm like, you got the number? Yeah, he hooks me up, and she was a great chiropractor, unbelievable hands. She was one of the best, manipulators ever.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember one time I'm standing there, my back's bugging me, and she goes, stand up, stand up. I turn around and she just looks at me and she goes, reaches out, grabs the skin in between one of my two vertebrae and pulled like this on the skin. And I felt it go like that, pop right back into place. And I was like, ah, so amazing hands, right? So
Wow.
anyway, like you said, I did that, and then I remember telling John, I go, man, my legs are just killing me, and he goes, you started doing ice baths yet? And I'm like, what do you mean ice baths? I mean, I'd stuck my foot in the whirlpool before when I rolled my ankle, but I wasn't doing ice baths.
Right, right.
And he's like, oh, you need to sit in a tub, from your hips down, throw in
Yep.
a ton of water, don't stay in too long, blah blah blah. And he's like, you do that, and he goes, you could double up on your workouts if you want. So I did that one time. I was trying to get into the Times Indoor. I called
Mm-hmm,
Frank
mm-hmm,
in. I go, what do I need to get in? He goes, 7'2.5", and I go, or 7'2".
mm-hmm,
I'm like, okay. So I started doing what John said. I was training in the morning, and
mm-hmm,
I would ice bath, and I'd come back in the afternoon. So I would run or do, bounding or something. And
mm-hmm.
then I would come back in the afternoon. And I only did technique work like once out of every 10 days by then. I would really pick my spots because it was just too much pounding, on my body. But I remember I was like, man, the first time I did, I'm like, man, he's right, man. I feel like $1,000,000. That afternoon session was like the morning hadn't happened, like I don't know what it is, taking all the swelling out of the tissues or,
Mm-hmm.
whatever goes on. But man, the recovery was great. And that was back in, like I said, I don't know, 90,
Nine, yeah,
91,
exactly.
somewhere in there. So like you said, everything just continues to get better.
Right.
But at the same time, like you said, it's the wealth of resources directed towards the athletes. And it seems to me that the guys that either maybe are still competing at their
Mm-hmm.
or maybe 1 or 2 years removed. It depends on, how long, you can keep cashing those checks. I don't know how long you can stay. It depends. I need
Mm-hmm.
to watch those guys come back. And I think, if you're still tight with the coaches, right? They're going to let you come back out and keep
Yeah,
training.
they
Right.
will. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it was an unbelievable time though. I can't believe that I have also shared the thing that I was so mad, and you went through some of the same thing. So it's even more impressive what you did. I was a walk on also. So I
Mm-hmm.
jumped 6'10", 10 3/4 my senior year, won CIF, went to state,
Mm-hmm.
got pretty much smashed at state. There was a lot of really good jumpers up there. John
Mm-hmm.
Morris from Cal, Crumby from Arizona, went to Arizona, 3-time state champ, right? It wasn't a cakewalk getting up there. I was thinking, oh man, I got a chance. He's like, no, not really. And then they're like, oh, well, you jumped 6'10", you came in wherever state. Like, we'll let you walk on. There was
Right.
no offers. I mean, I get kids getting college scholarships now when they jump 6'4" or
Uh-huh.
6'5" or something, right? I'm like, they made me walk on to UCLA from 6'10". And when I walked on campus, I was number 7 on the depth chart, immediately. So I had a terrible freshman year because I gained weight, didn't get
Mm-hmm.
any stronger, jumped 6'8", and they didn't care one way or the other, and I remember the first time I
Yeah,
met
'cause
Bob Larson.
we were already in school and they didn't have a financial obligation. So
Yeah. Yeah.
if you can score in conference, oh yeah, this was excellent for us.
Mhm.
I mean, even Kevin was the NC2A champion and probably school record holder still, and he was a walk on.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes I think somebody asked me about this too. They go, why aren't you coaching at UCLA? I went, I don't think they can afford me. I was like, I don't think they're going to pay me anything. And I talked to Alan about that one time. He said, no, they want you to pay them. They want you to, for the honor of coming back and coaching, at your college.
So you'd have to volunteer.
Mm-hmm.
I've been down this road. Oh well, we're gonna need you to volunteer
Mm-hmm.
for a period of time.
Right.
Then after that,
Yeah.
you can get a small compensation. Yes,
Right.
and you're gonna have to coach something that may
Yeah.
be outside of your expertise.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Crazy.
know,
Well, you saw I mean, at the end for a while there, Curran was coaching all the jumps,
current was called yes.
pole vault and all the jumps and doing a good job. I mean, he's,
Mhm.
he's, smart enough and, he would do a great job with that, but you're just like going, man. And I don't think they weren't paying him for years on end. I forget how it worked. He
For a
was doing
long
his
time.
clinics. I know they
Yeah,
had,
he would have to do clinics
yeah,
during the summer to
right.
make up the money that he donated during the
Yeah.
course of the season.
Well, let's hope you're talking about the resurgence of UCLA track and field. And I hope you're right. I would like to see that money
I'm
start flowing
excited. I'm
downhill.
excited. I'm excited for this year coming up because we actually have a hurdle coach.
Hmm.
Michelle Freeman is coaching the hurdles. Michelle Freeman is good at coaching the hurdles.
Yeah.
I have a young lady that is there that she's working with, and I'm extremely excited about at least from a hurdle perspective.
Right.
It's been extremely frustrating. Even when I was there, Steve Kerho was there, and his
Mhm.
coach.
Al-
He was there for a year, and
Alan,
then
right? Alan.
yeah, Allen, and then Allen was out, and then we didn't have a
Pretty
coach.
famously out. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty famously out. Yep. And then I think Clem came in,
Right.
donated some of the time, but never really had a coach that was good at that particular discipline that
Right.
they would hire and have on staff.
Yeah.
Always had a throw coach, always had a sprint coach,
Yeah.
not necessarily a hurdle coach.
Right.
No, I was there. I mean, they brought
Alan
Dr.
just the one year.
White
Yeah,
in like
that is so funny that you say that because I'm thinking back. I'm like, yeah, we're hurdle coach. Like I remember Alan coming along, but that was late
right,
because Kerho started the same year I did,
right.
and he was a full scholarship guy, and he redshirted right away.
Mm-hmm.
And then yeah, he never was really all my years because I just went straight through the four. They never
Mm.
bothered to redshirt me because I was a walk on. So even though that first year
Oh,
was a couple years.
they read shirted
Uh,
me after my
they didn't do
sophomore.
that with me. I don't know. I think they just really weren't really thinking that anything was going to pan out with me,
Mm.
So because I asked Larson came up to
Mm.
me. I told this story before because Larson's a great coach, but he didn't know anything about the high jump. He would tell you. So the first day, I'm sitting there all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and excited, and I meet Dell Davis and I meet Lee Balkin, and this guy's jumped 7'7", came in second at NC2As last year. And this is, Lee Balkin, he jumped 7'3" in high school. And I'm just like, like a kid with my autograph book, like, oh,
Right.
this is great. And I'm like, so who's the coach? And they kind of look at each other and, go talk to to Bob. So I meet Bob and he's like, hey, Bob Larson, good to meet you. He goes, I don't know anything about the high jump. This is literally like you're gonna be working with Dell and Lee. And he never did say one thing to me about technique or anything else. And I went over there and worked with those guys, and they were uh, great athletes, not necessarily great coaches right then. Lee
Right.
now has been coaching for a long time and very well at Glendale. But
Mhm.
we were just college kids. I was 20, I was 18 years old when I met Lee. So Lee was probably 20, and so they were doing their best they could to help me, but it's like that was interesting. And then, I remember Bob, I go, what do I need to get on scholarship? And Bob goes, and he just kind of laughed and he goes, looks at me, he's like, oh, like you're serious. Because I'm like, well, yeah. And he goes, well, you jump 7.2 and we'll talk, and that freshman year was terrible. So the second year I jumped 7.2, and the next Monday I was sitting in his office, and he comes walking in, he looks at me and he goes, you want some money? I'm like, yeah, that'd be cool. So he honored his word, which was great. It wasn't anything great. It wasn't like life altering cash. It was like what did they give everybody back then? There was
Exactly. Look, look, look,
eight
look.
scholarships for
Our,
12 scholarships for
our
a 70-man
stories,
team.
our stories are starting to sound more and more similar because I
Yeah.
did the same thing after my sophomore year. I was
Yeah.
like, I'm gonna need some money. I done made the team. I done scored in conference.
Right.
I'm looking at your prolific distance runner scoring 0 points in conference, and I'm scoring. I think you could find a little something for me, and he
Yeah.
did.
Yeah.
And he did. It became more and more every year. So
Nice.
those fun times, man. I really enjoy Bob.
Yeah. Oh no, great, great coach and great guy. I remember I would pop in his office every once in a while because you're freshman, you're sophomore, you're young, you got questions about stuff, and I'd just sit around. I like looking at the pictures. In his
Yes,
office while I saw pictures of Willie Banks, and stuff
yes,
like that.
yes.
So no, it's great times. I love telling the stories of the people that I got to meet, through the connections there, from
Mm-hmm.
John Smith, who was a great athlete and great coach and was starring in movies, great looking guy and really sharp, what he taught, for the running stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Great recruiter, obviously. As soon as he got there and started recruiting, there's all everybody's walking in the door is just like, and he's building Olympic gold medalists, which I'm sure he's still up to now. And then,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
uh, Art Venegas there with John,
Yes.
all that stuff. What was that? There was another, oh, you were talking about hurdle guys. And God bless him. We lost Greg Foster,
But lost Greg Foster
season.
this year.
And
Yes.
he was a guy that I remember I saw him on TV before I got to UCLA, and he
Mm-hmm.
was running at some big meets and everything, and he just couldn't quite get over the Nehemiah hurdle, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
Nehemiah was the guy back then. And then, man, he was just tough. I just remember him. Remember, he broke his forearm and
Yeah.
he ran and made it all the way to the
Greg
final
was.
with a
Yeah.
broken
I
arm and
remember.
cast. He
Yeah.
was tough, that guy.
Yeah. Greg was my role model, idol. He not only was he a Bruin,
Yeah.
he ran 110 hurdles. I wanted to run 110 hurdles. And then he ran for a long time.
Yes.
like he ran for a long time. Uh I can't remember which year it was. It might have been 95-ish.
Hmm.
Right after Worlds, he was still running, and I was having a pretty good year. And I was like, "Look, Greg, like really, I'm really waiting for you to retire, but I'm really trying to push you out of the way right now." But I mean, extremely talented, and end up getting the Olympic gold medal. But I think he got like 3 world
Yeah.
championships in a row.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is a tall order,
Yeah. No doubt.
But yeah, to your point, Nehemiah was there, and then Roger Kingdom came in and just beat
Yeah.
him at the Olympics in '84 and '88.
Yeah. Yeah. But that just it's just amazing when I think back to all the people, that we had the chance to meet, compete against,
Yeah.
through the ties at UCLA. I'll never, I've had kids come up to me and go, Mr. Haines, because I'm a teacher at Garden Grove High School, and they'll go, where
Mm-hmm.
should I go to school? Should I go to UCLA and I go, stop right there. I'm just like, if you can, you want to go, man. I'm telling you, you'll never
If
regret it.
you have an opportunity to go, yes,
Yeah.
it's a great institution of higher learning. That's where you want to be.
I've never ever regretted it. I've met so many great people.
Mhm.
I remember I tell this story as as much as we hated SC, and
Right,
I was there
exactly.
all 4 of my years. We stomped them into the ground. We never lost
Killed
a
them,
beat.
killed them. They were always an
83, yeah,
afterthought.
always. Until Ron Alice showed up and they started getting more competitive, right? But
Mhm.
for the longest time, nothing was going on there. So I remember my freshman year, I'm there in the summer of my summer heading into that sophomore year. And I'd been in the weight room and
Mhm.
I remember lifting. And a lot of the times I was in there, Tom Ramsey was in there lifting because he was getting ready to get in the draft.
Mhm.
And, or he had been drafted already by the Patriots. And he was the quarterback my freshman year when they won the Rose Bowl and
Mhm.
they beat Michigan after I think in the regular season we beat them, but just barely. But it was in Ann Arbor, and we came from behind to beat them. And then when we played them in the Rose Bowl, we just stomped them, right? And so he got drafted, and he was in the weight room all the time. Great guy, So here's a guy that's basically a graduate student in there lifting. So I got
Mhm.
to meet him. I'm sure he would not remember me, but I remember Tom Ramsey. And then that second summer, I was out there and I'm on the track one day, and Tony Banks came
Right.
out, right?
Mhm.
And he comes up, and walking right behind him wearing a weighted vest is Marcus Allen from USC. And I'm
Right.
like, I'm looking at him, and Tony, gracious as he was, knowing, having been introduced to me, and I wasn't super tight, but
Mhm.
I knew his name, would say, hey, Tony, hey, Troy, how's it going? And he said, hey, Troy, I'd like you to meet, Marcus Allen. And he was the most gracious, nice man, just said, hey, how's it going? And I think he was already the rookie of the year in the NFL and,
Mhm.
was because that was 83
Okay.
or 84, right? So it's really close. It was one or the other. He's either rookie of the year and or MVP of the Super Bowl.
Mhm.
And I remember thinking, okay, this is Marcus Allen, and always respected him, great talent. And then he was jogging around the track in his weight vest, and I was finishing up my workout. So they had just showed up to start, and I was finishing.
Mhm.
So I remember packing up my crap, and I'm going heading off to the weight room, and I went walking out, the far gate towards that old
Right.
weight room, and he was
Uh-huh.
jogging around, and I kind of looked at him to think, I was like, is he gonna say or acknowledge me or whatever? And he just said, hey, Troy, it's nice meeting you, and I'm like, hey, you too, Marcus. So that's my
Nice.
brush with greatness. But I'm like, what a classy guy. I mean, he didn't have to say anything to me. He didn't know me from anything. So I always tell that story. And then because my favorite guy I'd love to meet from SC is Ronnie Lott because I'm a Niner fan. So I would love to meet Ronnie Lott someday.
That would be
Yeah.
nice.
He's another just classy, for my money, the best defensive back ever put on shoes in the NFL because I still don't think there's anybody. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe one of the other great guys from Michigan, but
I'm a
Ronnie,
I'm a
Ronnie,
Rob Woodson fan. Rob Woodson was a hurdler.
yes. And then,
And a very good one.
right, right. And so was Roger Craig for the Niners.
Yes.
He ran the
Yes.
highs at Nebraska, right? And he
Hmm.
had that high knee action to prove it. But
Man, for real.
what was my point about that?
Oh,
Oh,
sorry.
Ronnie Lott had he was an all pro as a corner. When the Niners drafted him, they already had a great free safety, Dwight Hicks. So instead of
Mhm.
playing in his natural position, they put him at corner, and he had 4 or 5 interceptions returned. Well, that guy just broke that record this year. I think Ronnie Lott had 3 during the regular season, picks returned for touchdowns. He did one more in the playoffs. The Niners win the Super Bowl his freshman year. He's one of his freshman his rookie year,
Mhm.
and then he played there for a few years. Then he moved when Dwight Hicks was out. They moved him back to free, all
Mhm.
pro, more
Mhm.
Super Bowls, all first team, all pro, all that kind of stuff. Feared around the league. Nobody wanted to come over the middle because they knew he was going to
Was
kill
a
you.
big hitter.
Big
He
hitter.
was a big hitter. He was hitting like a linebacker from a
Yeah.
safety position.
Yeah, he wore linebacker pads too. If you saw him, he had those big
Mhm.
shoulder pads,
He
right?
a
And he would
big
just come
hitter.
out and try to kill people. And then at the end of his career, when the Niners, foolishly, I think, with both him and Montana and Craig, were like,
Mhm.
and Jerry Rice even, amazing. They let those guys go somewhere else to play in the league when they got quote unquote too old. And
Yes.
so he went to the
They
Jets.
aged out of the franchise.
He either went to the Jets or the Raiders. I can't remember which. It might have been the Raiders first, then the Jets, but they ended up moving him to strong safety, a little slower. They put
Mhm.
him strong safety, all pro again. I'm like, dude,
Still a
how
big
many
hitter.
players played every position in the defensive backfield and was an all pro at all of them? I'm like, I can't think of any. He's got to
Yeah,
be the only one.
yeah,
So,
he's a rare talent for
oh
sure.
my goodness.
For
So
sure.
anyway, that's all said and done. So now living vicariously through your athletes, that's a
Yes,
subject I love. So is this young lady that you've already coached who's now at UCLA? Is that
yes.
something that you're talking about? Maybe her, does she have that dual citizenship?
No, she is a Belgian citizen,
Hmm.
and right now she's number two all time in Belgium. Uh,
Hmm.
she's number two all time, 60 hurdles at UCLA. Ran 12.99 last year, and I think the Belgium record is 12.79,
Hmm.
which is well within her range.
Yeah.
So, she should make the next two Olympic teams.
Awesome.
So I mean, it's great to see when you get kids younger, like when you're talking about making Olympic teams and running professionally. That's a totally different animal. I kind of like it where it's still kind of pure and innocent,
Yeah.
where it's just hard work and consistency day in, day out. You can get some results.
Hmm.
Um, get scholarships to go to school. I think I've gotten a kid a full scholarship to go to school maybe the last 10 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like every year I'm at the state meet with a
Hmm.
hurdler. And that's where it's fun for me right
Now,
now.
where are you getting all this talent, Derek? Do they come to you or you?
Some are coming to me,
Hmm.
and some actually, like when I was at Sarah, we had some extremely talented kids.
Yeah.
That's when I coached my first state champion.
Yeah.
It was a kid. He was a half miler. He was a sophomore half miler. Similar story that I told you that I was running a half mile when I was in
Right.
high
Right.
school. But I didn't have myself as a coach. I pulled that kid to the side and I was like, you know what? Don't worry about it. You're gonna hurdle next year. So just sit back and enjoy the ride.
Yeah.
Now since he had 800-meter background, I was primarily training him for 300 hurdles,
Yeah.
not,
Yeah.
not necessarily the 110s, but we did a lot of 110 work, to work on the technique for the 300
Sure.
hurdles. And the kid ended up, winning the state meeting, the 110 hurdles the following year.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
So one of the questions I was going to ask you is I think about it all the time and I know very little. I mean, for most people, if you were to say about track and field, I'd go, okay, high jump, long jump, triple jump in that order, pole vault, starting to squeeze down there. Once you get to the throws, I remember listening a lot to Art Venegas and watching the guys throw.
Mm-hmm.
There are some things in there that I think, yeah, given anybody that didn't know anything at all, I could help them. But after that, not so much. But as far as, watching the hurdles and everything, I've always thought, I'm like, you know what? The one thing that I got from I don't know, did you ever meet Baru Elias at Long Beach City?
No.
I heard that name. He coached Brian Stanton, who made the team in '88, seven
Yeah.
eight high jumper.
Mm-hmm.
Dennis Lewis, he coached him 7 8 and a quarter.
Mm-hmm.
I might have been third on his all time hit list, with the 222, 3.5. But
Mm-hmm.
he taught me cycling. Everything was about cycling. He said, you got to get your knees up.
Yes.
You got to get your feet kicking you in the butt
Yes.
every step, and that was the key to everything with him. Long, triple, high
Yeah.
jump,
Front,
and I
front,
started,
front, the front side sprint mechanics is
yeah,
very critical for sure.
absolutely. And I'm like, because everything to me about high, long, triple pole vault is getting your center of mass
Right.
up off the ground. So if I'm already up when I get there, why is it that people want, the tall high jumpers? I'm like, well, their center mass is already up there.
Right.
If you can
Right.
teach them how to run higher, it's even easier, right? So I always thought it's got to be the same thing for hurdling. I mean, if you can be super tall and cycling like crazy, then it's almost like just stepping over. You don't have to
Yes,
jump if you're in a gym.
especially for girls.
Hmm.
Girls high hurdles, 33 inches.
Yeah.
Um, and I've had the luxury of coaching a young lady that was 5'11", and
Hmm.
we turned it into a sprint.
Yeah.
She went to UC Irvine, and she's the all-time record holder at that school.
Yep.
So
Yep.
yeah, I mean, if you have somebody who is taller, yes, it could be exciting watching somebody that's bigger with longer limbs. But the
Right.
hurdles are so small, it
Yeah.
really doesn't matter. You can. All I need is to have somebody that's tall enough that if they could stand and in between the hurdle,
Yeah.
they'll be perfectly fine.
Yeah. Even if they're on their tiptoes, right? If they're on their tiptoes, and
Yeah, if they're on the balls of their feet just a little bit, yes.
yeah.
I have a little girl right now. She's 11 years old. Hurdle
Mhm.
is bigger than her, but we started with some real baby hurdles,
Right.
and she can get over the hurdle. She understands the mechanics of it.
Right. Right.
So
Yeah. I did it once, maybe twice, because when I was at Millikan, we would run the decathlon every year.
mhm,
We would do like a one event a day or maybe two, right? It'd take a
mhm,
week. And that was our coach's way of finding out what everybody was good at, which I
mhm,
still, to this day, I'm like, okay, if I'm ever going to be the head guy, we're going to do that because I liked it. Number one, everybody
mhm,
knew the events better back then because we used to watch it on the Olympics. And this is
right.
when I started high school track, it was 79 or 80, so it was still pretty far back there. So it was like we knew the events. I didn't know like all the values and the tables for all of them, but
Mhm.
and I did those hurdles once, and all I remember was I would go one, two, three, and I would go boing, and I would jump, and I'd be like a foot over, and I would just sail. I could easily three step, but I think my
I
time
mean,
was
see,
like
now if you could easily
17,
three
17,
step,
18, 17.
easily three stepping, you're beating 60% of the competition already.
But
Maybe 70, 75.
you're talking about a tall, skinny white dude with no speed. So I could get over him, but I was too long in the air and I
Too
didn't
long in the
have
air,
speed in between.
and the three step wasn't that swift.
No, no. There was nothing swift about me running after I was 12. I'm telling you that when I was 12, I had shorter legs and I remember I was pretty quick. I wasn't the fastest guy, but it's funny. I remember reading a story like that one time where this guy was really fired up about racing and he kept working on a sprint and it was, some short story with, a guy and then all of a sudden he looks over in the first day of school and he's been training and they got this little 50-yard course laid out and he looks over and he's like he knew he was the fastest one, and he gets there and he sees this blur go by and it was like the girl that he'd been making fun of that lived right next door,
Right,
and she was
right.
faster. They ended up being friends and is, the whole other part of the story. But I remember thinking, I think I was like him. Like I was fast in sixth grade. And then when I got taller and I didn't have the same strength to weight ratio or whatever, like
Mhm.
my legs just were nothing like that. And you'll like this
So
story, dude.
what you needed was a sprint coach to show
I
you the front
anything would have been
slides.
good, right? But
Yes.
I the first day I got to seventh grade and I was cocky. I mean, hard to
Mhm.
believe now, right? So I come walking off
I
of
can't
sixth grade.
believe the hair, man. I'm so jealous of you and the hair. I used to have a flat top when we were at
Yeah.
UCLA. I can't get
Ooh,
it grow here now.
and that's it, huh?
That's it.
You know
This
what
all you
though?
need.
I'm
Huh?
telling you what, the thing that I like about the bald look is it's ageless. Nobody's gonna ever know. You look the same. You know what I mean?
Oh,
It's
why
hard to
thank
tell.
you.
Do you remember Yul Brynner, the actor?
Yes.
I
Yes.
mean, Yul Brynner died when he was in his 70s. He still looked 40 or 50. He'd been rocking that bald head since,
That's it.
way back
Yes.
when he did Westworld, he did The King and I, he did
Mhm.
The Magnificent Seven. It was the same look, right? And you could never tell how old he was. Telly Savalas, these are guys, but it's like Jordan for the
Right.
longest time. Once he started shaving his head, I don't think he was losing it. He might have had a bald patch, when he was younger, but it
Mhm.
wasn't like he didn't have a head of hair. But when he started shaving his head, you're like, he looks the same pretty much, so I think that's a smart move. But the cockiness issue, I thought I mean, all that coming out of sixth grade. So we went to our junior high and somebody had laid out a course. It was just like that story. There was
Mhm.
like, and we're out in the field, and in sixth grade they had a little 50-yard dash.
Mhm.
Well, in seventh grade, they didn't have a 50. It was more like 100, and it looked like maybe 200. Like it looked like a long way away. But
Mhm.
they're like, "Hey, you're pretty fast, right?" Try, I mean, yeah, I was pretty fast. You should race this guy. And I see this tall, you know, thought kind of gawky, but red hair, freckled kid, and I'm like, oh yeah, let's
Oh,
go.
I got him. I got
Let's
him.
go. So we line up and everybody's like, go. And all I remember was, and I was just like, I'm taking like a couple steps and I'm thinking I'm doing one of those, I gotta fake a hammy here or something because this, this guy was gone. It was not
Oh.
a contest, dude. It was like, well, his name was Steve White. He went to Millikan with me. He ran
Mhm.
the 800, the 400, was a good basketball player, great athlete. Bumped into him years later, and I still remember that story. God has his way periodically of just humbling the crap out of me. It's
Yes.
like, dude,
Yes.
you have got to take a step back. So
Yes.
that was when I realized my sprinting days were over for a while. Wasn't like I told you the other day, the 400-pound squats, I
Mhm.
think enabled me to get down into like a 4.7, maybe her
Mhm.
40,
Mhm.
which a little bit more respectable. But yeah, I was never fast. I'm definitely not a speed jumper. I was a power guy. Easy to see. So, getting back to what's going on this year, God, it's so exciting. We got the Olympics coming again,
Olympics.
and then another 4 years,
We have World
almost 4 years away. Yeah, 4 years away from now, we're going to have the Olympics back here in LA,
Yes.
and that is huge.
28. Yes. I've had the pleasure of seeing Bob Kersey
Hmm.
maybe 2 months ago. Valerie Briscoe got inducted into the Hall of Fame at her
Awesome.
school. And I have a transportation company. So he's like, oh, Derek, I'm going to need you to go and pick Val up and blah, blah, blah. We're going to go to the this, that, and the other. And, had a really good talk with Bobby. Bobby's been coaching a long time.
Oh yeah.
And he said that 28, he said 28 is going to be his final
One
chapter.
song.
He
Hmm.
started in 84 in LA,
Yep.
back in LA in 28. He's been coaching this entire time.
Yeah.
Can't even count the amount of world
Yeah.
champions, gold
Oh,
medalists that he's done touched. So yeah, when you're talking about people that we've met and during our time there, like when it comes to track and field, I think we've seen the track and field royalty
yeah.
uh, come through our campus, coaches, athletes,
Yeah.
and everybody's doing well.
Yeah.
It's good to see.
Well, yeah, Bobby, just so much, both the coaching and the talent. His wife, Jackie, one of the nicest
Yes,
people I've ever met, you
yes,
and one of the most athletic I've ever seen, from being a 22-foot long jumper, which is
yeah,
just amazing, you know.
and no, and not only that, she was a 1260 hurdler.
Yeah.
I was extremely impressed with her technique. Like technically,
Yeah. Yeah.
she was spot on.
She could throw the jab. I mean, obviously she's a world record holder at one time in the hep, right? And then
Mhm.
medalist and all that. Played basketball at UCLA. Nicest, sweetest woman you're ever gonna
Oh
meet.
yes, absolutely.
Her, Gail, there's so many great athletes out there that time. It's truly valor. I remember meeting, saying hi, watching them. They come out and they work. Those women work.
Yes,
They work
hard,
hard.
and work hard too.
Yeah,
Work.
it was hard work. And, so there's that. And then the other favorite story I love to tell people is, that first year, I don't remember I had to have gone to an awards banquet, but I think I want to say it had to be the 84 year because
Hmm.
I don't think I was a student enough to know who he was before then. So it may have been after the Olympics or maybe it was before, but
Okay.
and it was it had to be that year, probably my second year. But
Mm-hmm.
Rayford Johnson wearing
Rayford Johnson. Yes.
a tux with a bow tie came up and opened our banquet, right? Just like he brought the torch into the Coliseum.
Yes.
And I remember just going, "Oh my God!" He and he looked so good. He just looked to me. I'm just like, "This guy's a stud." I'm
Yeah.
like Olympic decathlete, gold medalist,
Gold medalist.
an incredible, ambassador for track and field for years. And then, if you cut that guy, he bled blue and gold. Like
Yes.
I'm telling you, I
Through
went
and through
to
and through, for
one of
sure.
those golf fundraisers, and
Mm-hmm.
that he would do whatever they asked him to do. He was out there, he was a greeter. He'd be like, "Hey," and it took pictures. Patient man, unbelievably patient, gracious. Just it was a lot of fun. That same tournament I went to, I met Jerry Robinson, who
Mm-hmm.
came out on one of the holes, and I think I just hit a career shot of my life onto a par three, and
Mm-hmm.
this big guy comes lumbering out of the snack shack and starts walking up, going, "Yeah, hey, great shot." And I'm like, "Oh, thanks," and he comes up, shakes my hand, Jerry Robinson. I'm like, Jerry Robinson. I'm like, "Oh, great," because I knew who he was, from
Mm-hmm.
playing in the Rose Bowl, and
Mm-hmm.
we sat around and had a couple cold ones after the thing, and he was talking about the tackle that he made in the Rose Bowl of
Mm-hmm.
Archie Griffin,
Oh wow.
the two-time Heisman Trophy winner, right? So he said the very first play they put him in there, he was a receiver early in the season and earlier in his career. He'd started
Mm-hmm.
off as a receiver,
Uh-huh.
and he was fast. And they said, "We want to try you at outside linebacker." Okay, so he'd played some, wasn't really a starter that much yet, but they put him in the Rose Bowl, and the first play they gave to Archie Griffin, he said they ran a toss, and he ran wide, and he shot through a gap and
Mm-hmm.
was on him and tackled him for like a 5 yard loss. And there's still pictures of him doing that. And he was telling me downtown somewhere there's a McDonald's where they have a whole wall with that,
Uh-huh.
of him tackling Archie Griffin. And he goes, "It's a good thing they did it on that one, because the very next play they gave it to him straight up the middle." And he goes, "He ran me over." It just it kept going. And I was like, a gracious man, obviously. I mean, he ended up being an all pro, played, for the Raiders. And I think he was an all pro there. I know he played for a few years with the Raiders, but, humble enough to tell that story that, the first time he got him and the second time he didn't. He said he only played like 2 or 3 plays. So he made his mark, on that one play. But, oh, yeah, I just think back, and there's so many people. I got to jump against, I know your name list is longer. I got to jump against Sotomayor right after he broke the
Yes.
record, because they
Super,
brought him to UCLA.
super
He
high
jumped.
jump
Yeah.
royalty there.
Yeah. He came over here and jumped shortly after breaking the world record. So it was like, oh my gosh, I get to see Sotomayor in action, and saw four of the best jumps I'd ever seen. So that was really cool. Um, what is it? What do you have as we're gonna? I know I'm gonna wrap it up here and let you
Okay.
but what are you thinking of for this next, both this year? You're mentioning, Bobby's talking about being done in 2028, but as far as, what do you think the impact is going to be of the Olympics here in LA in 2028? And do you have like any kind of a plan that you're doing with your business as far as?
Yes. I am positioning my vehicle. Super Bowl is gonna be back here in 27.
Yeah.
And then Olympics is gonna be here in 28. So yeah, my transportation company is in line to be able to be available for transportation services for both of those events.
Awesome. So is it like limos, or is it
Yeah,
Ubers?
limousine sprinters, yes. Mercedes Benz limo sprinters. I have a 12 passenger and an 8 passenger.
Mhm.
So yeah.
Well, that's going to be awesome. I really was foolishly, I think, after 84,
Mm-hmm.
when we finished that season.
Mm-hmm.
This is before you got there. So in 84, the trials were starting up and all that. So I remember going, and I was trying to get in because like I said, the year before I hadn't jumped anything at all. And then all of a sudden I went 7 feet. I went 7.2, which
Mm-hmm.
really not past my expectations, but it, got me the scholarship and all that.
Mhm.
And then somebody said, hey, the trial height's only 7'4", and I'm like, well, crap. So I took a couple more shots at it, right before the summer was out. And, I don't think I was ready to jump 7'4", but it was like, and that was, I like to tell that story because it wasn't on my goal set yet. It was like,
Mhm.
I mean, big time, like Dwayne and I talking about it was one thing, but that year I was very happy to have made 7 feet 7'2", and 7'4" was going to have to be, future.
Mhm.
But it was, you could already feel that the, raising of the level and the excitement of, people training. And then I don't know if you weren't there yet, but there were people coming and training on our track from all over the world.
Yes.
It was like
Lord, yes.
foreign athletes, popping up all over the place. Do you remember the one guy? He was a 400-meter guy from Great Britain.
Yes. Derek,
Another Derek. I thought his name was
Derek
Derek.
Redmond.
Yes, and he
Derek
was
Redmond.
he was a guy that like blew out his
Yeah,
hamstring.
blew out his D and then famously walked the whole
Finished.
thing. I
Yeah,
think his dad came out or something like that.
Dad
Yeah,
came out and carried him through the line. Right.
yeah, that was Derek Redmond. He
Yeah,
was,
Derek. He.
yeah, I remember he was out there training with us. Like
Yep.
that, we can go on and on about the people who have come on and off the track at
Yeah.
UCLA
Yeah.
during the time we were there, and we could talk for hours.
Yeah. It
You
was a.
know, Flores Griffin Joiners,
Yeah.
your Greg Fosters, your Andre Phillips, and all of
Oh,
these people were Brewers.
amazing. Yeah. Well, Derek, I knew this was a great idea. I
Oh
want to
man,
thank you for spending
pleasure.
time. And I I I remember at the time, there, I was telling somebody the other day, I said, the first time I bumped in, you said we were on the team together. And I'm like, I, there was so many people and,
Right.
I
I remember
didn't
he was
know.
like, yeah.
Yeah. I've been accused of
But
not
now you
knowing.
remember
Absolutely.
me.
But yeah, it's like, there's and people out there, if you don't know this, a college track team has many moving parts,
Yeah,
between how many events is 14, 15 with the sprints, this, that, 17. I can't remember. You have to count them all up.
I
Field
couldn't
event
even.
sprints. But if you got three athletes minimum to compete in a dual meet in all those things, now some of them repeat, like you would run the 100 and the four
The
hurdles.
110s and
And then you
400.
had, guys that run the 100, the 200, and the relay, and then
Mm-hmm.
maybe a 200, 400 relay or whatever, or a
Mm-hmm.
4-8. And then you had your distance guys, but it's like it wasn't just three all the time. And so you had 5, 6 deep in these events. So there's 70 people ish. So I remember some of our big meetings, right? And we'd have the meeting after the meets or before, whatever, on Fridays, right?
Right. Yeah.
And man, you just look around, there's a big room full of people. So it's like,
A room full of people.
yeah,
Some you don't really know at all.
yeah, yeah,
Like this, like the distance team. Like I saw them rarely.
right.
Maybe for except for Cushing Murray, we came in at the same time, so I saw
Uh-huh.
him a lot. But
Yeah,
outside of Cush, I couldn't even tell you
right.
who ran distances at
Remember
UCLA.
Jim Ortiz a little bit?
Jim Ortiz.
Remember Jim? But yeah, it's the same way. And also, if you're ever wondering about a great way to make money, I keep thinking this would be a great way. I'm like, okay, who are the people that feel guilty if they don't work out? It's the distance guys. The distance guys are the ones that are sitting, I got to get my 8 miles in. And they're like, and it's like, I would just start a running club,
Guys have to get that mileage in. I don't understand it.
start a running club, right?
Miles, yes.
Yeah. And just say, hey, here's the plan. We're gonna do this, and they got their watches and they're taking their heart rate and they're just like they're super proactive. And you say, okay, when's the next workout? They're like, okay, I'll be there. They're not gonna miss it. I'm like, that'd be the easiest way to make money is to just start up a running club,
Uh, then we need to talk about that.
right?
It's especially in the beach cities.
Right?
No,
Exactly.
for
Can't
real.
can't run anywhere better.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, hey, Derek, I really appreciate your time, man. I know we're going to keep bumping into each other because we're working at the same track there in Redondo, and
Hmm.
I can't wait to see what happens. You've got your people already picked out. I recruited myself a couple of the kids there at Redondo. I'm excited to see what they do. Like I told you, I'm trying to build a single armor for the first
Okay,
time.
for
So
sure.
I'm experimenting. I keep calling my posts and Instagram run in the lab. Are you on
anytime.
Instagram? Where can the listeners
I
get
am not on
get to
Instagram.
you? Not on
Um,
Instagram. So where are they going to find you if they want to get in touch with you for great coaching in the hurdles?
they need to get in contact with you, and then you can contact me.
There you go. All right. I will be the guy, the liaison between.
You will be my agent in charge.
Awesome. You got it. Yeah. Well, like I said, that they find you, right? They do have
They
their
they,
way.
they find me because I'm not looking for a lot. I'm not. I mean, I'm in between. I got like 3 or 4 jobs. I'm
Yeah.
trying to grow this transportation company. Daughter in high school.
Right.
Like, there's only so much time,
Yes. Yes.
And if I do take on a client, I'm not really just trying to collect the coin. I want to actually make sure that we can get some results. So
Right.
I don't take on a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that approach. Yeah. It's tough. It's tough to have a huge thing. Like
Yeah, I
I
mean,
watched
because
Keenan run his leap squad. I can't deal with that many kids. There's too many kids.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
tough.
Keep it. I like to keep it small if I can.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. All right, sir. Well,
All
I'm
right,
gonna be bumping into you real soon.
all
I'm
right.
looking
Take
forward
care.
to it.
I know. I'll see you. Maybe Christmas Eve. Maybe not. Maybe
All right.
after that. I'll
All
see
right,
you
sir.
sometime this week.
All right, Derek.
All
It's been a
right, Troy.
pleasure, sir.
Take
Have a
care,
good
man.
night.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.
All right.
Bye bye.
Bye. And that's going to wrap it up here on Raise the Bar. This was the I can't do two things at once. Touchdown. Wow. Okay, we'll start over. Edit this out later. Huh. And that's going to finish it here on another episode of Raise the Bar. I'm your host, Troy Haines, and it has been my pleasure to talk tonight with Derek Knight, former UCLA high hurdler, both the 110s and the 400-meter hurdles. Um, just a fantastic athlete, a walk-on like myself, but much more highly accomplished. He made it to several different Olympic trials, NC2A finals, Pac-12s, Pac-10s back then, maybe Pac-12s, and has also coached many state champions here in California. Knows his stuff and is as excited as I am about the 2028 games that are coming here to LA. And like he said, if you want to get in contact with him, then get in contact with me because I'm his new liaison for that through Instagram or here on YouTube. So until next time, this is Troy Haynes talking from Raise the Bar, signing off.